And welcome into another episode of the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. I'm Ben Mandel, joined by just Tom Leone this week. No Mikey D, no Parker Dorsey, but Tom and I will hold down the fort. We've got this.
Yes, we
As you
will.
can see, it is the most wonderful time of the year, seen by Tom's
Oh,
tree in the
I do
background.
have my Christmas tree up
Hey,
already. Yep.
so the only reason why the house here is not all decked out for Christmas is because we are getting our floors done. So we
Okay.
have to wait to put the tree up. It's
Until then,
killing my mom right now,
we
but
we got a we got a $50 gift card for putting our tree up that early with my job. I work for a Christmas tree company, so
that's
you put
honestly
the
though,
tree up, you
that's
take a picture, you get a $50 Amazon gift card pre Thanksgiving. So
hey,
it was a
well,
no
we're
brainer for me.
we're in the market for a tree for our back porch, so I know where I'm going. But on to hockey here. We do have some things we're going to get into, and a lot of them are. We've been talking a lot about our biggest surprises, but we're going to talk about our biggest disappointments so far this year. But first, just some news. Really big injury this week. Another star goes down. We've seen a lot of stars get hurt. McDavid missed some time. Jack Hughes has missed some time. Now it's Tage Thompson's turn. He's going to be out week to week. Tough break for Buffalo, a team that we're going to talk a little bit more about later on as the show goes on. But getting into a little bit more of the meat, we saw the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies this week. And Tom, your guy Henrik Lundqvist was inducted. We can't not hear your thoughts. Tell us about, just growing up watching Henrik Lundqvist and how it feels as a fan, because I remember how it felt seeing Martin Brodeurs number 30 go up in the rafters, seeing him enter the Hall of Fame. This is his close. This is right around, what I was feeling as a Devils fan. So walk us through what it was like being a Henrik Lundqvist fan and seeing him get enshrined.
It was so awesome. I think there's something about when a player plays his whole career with your team that you grew up with, because like as a fan, right, you don't switch your fandoms. Like you're a fan from day one through it all. So when a player does that and has a career like Henrik Lundqvist, it's so special. And I was lucky enough to be sitting on the glass when he got his jersey retired, and it was just an awesome night. And then this whole process has been great. The only thing, and I'll start with a negative before I explain what it was like watching Henrik Lundqvist. It is such a shame he doesn't have a Stanley Cup. Like it
Yeah.
pisses me. It's
At
I
least
now
it
know
didn't
how it
hold him
feels.
from getting in, though.
No, it's because he was that great. That's what the people call him out for not winning cups, but the fact is that he was on teams that weren't that good, and he made them what they were. Like those deep playoff runs were because of Henrik Lundqvist. Them staying
Mhm.
afloat in the regular season was because of Henrik Lundqvist, and it was just amazing. And I kind of know what it feels like to be a Dolphin fan from like the 80s and 90s, watching Dan
With Dan
Marino. It's like we
Marino,
never
yeah.
could make. He's the Dan Marino of hockey, Henrik Lundqvist. But
That's
I
a
don't know if I
great comparison.
thank you. It's amazing to me that he never won. But with that being said, watching Henrik Lundqvist and growing up watching Henrik Lundqvist it was like having a great quarterback for an NFL fan. You knew every year, every time the team stepped on the ice, there was going to be a chance to win. And you always had that buzz that if this guy turns it on come playoff time, they're going to go on a Stanley Cup run. And they had so many deep playoff runs with him, so many memories. The Montreal save in game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final sticks in my head. He was amazing in that Kings series in his only Stanley Cup appearance. It was just he was just so much fun to watch and just such a great goalie. And I wish he got the cup so that way I don't have to every time I argue that Henrik Lundqvist is a top 5 goalie ever, that I don't have to hear he never won a cup. But it is what it is. He has a great career, and who knows? Who knows? Maybe he'll
Yeah,
get a
and
cup as an advisor or on a coaching staff or something as a goalie coach. I don't know, but
well,
it was amazing.
and think about, just not only what what Lundqvist did getting to, the point where he was and, keeping the Rangers afloat all of those years. The one thing that sticks out to me as a non-Ranger fan, how many cups did Alexander Ovechkin not win because of Henrik Lundqvist? Because how many times did they meet in the playoffs and Washington just couldn't get past them?
It's
Like
so true.
like it was the Rangers at first, and then it became the Penguins for the
Yeah.
Capitals. Like obviously Ovechkin Crosby was always a head to head, but it has always like Ovechkin always had an obstacle, and for the Great Eight, Lundqvist was that obstacle. If there's a documentary made about Alexander Ovechkin, you can't tell that story
without the
without
Lundqvist
Henrik
battles,
Lundqvist.
especially the game 7 where he guaranteed a victory and
Hmm.
Lundqvist just absolutely stood on his head. And he scored the first goal in that game. That's the game the Rangers won in overtime where Derek Stepan scored the game
Hmm.
winner. That game, Henrik Lundqvist, oh, dude, that third period, he made some crazy saves. That the 3-1 comebacks against Pittsburgh, the 3-1 comeback against Washington. I mean, there are so many memories of this guy, and he was just so elite. I mean, he like there's no business for a team with Michael Del Zotto in their top pair to make the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, that's just what you gotta just throw out there. I mean, the teams he was on that went into deep playoff runs were just it was just crazy. It was because of
So,
him.
so that raises the question: how good were those Kings teams that won the cup? Because you're saying they beat a Rangers team that wasn't that good, and you and I both know that Devils team was not that good that they beat. So
Yeah,
how good
it's
were the early 2010s Kings? But
maybe a little overrated.
that's a debate for another day. I mean, hey, that's 2 Stanley Cups. As much as I dislike the Kings, especially from that era,
And you
there's
know what's
nothing
so
we can do.
crazy? I know we don't want to touch on this too much, but you
Yeah,
can look back at the Devils series and you can look back at the Rangers series, and both the Rangers and Devils deserve to win those games so much. Daryl Sutter just had the Kings playing this style of hockey. It was almost like a
and it
great
was
defense
always
that
they
bends
turned it
but
on at
doesn't
the right
break.
time.
Always like I think they scored in the Rangers series. I remember they came back both games 1 and 2. They came back, they had a deficit. And then one of the games in game 3, it was 0-0 the whole first period, and they scored in the last 10 seconds of the first period. And as a hockey fan, you know when you score in the last minute of a period, it flips the whole game on their head. Like everything
Exactly.
of both those playoff runs,
Well, and
2012 and
that's, I mean, the
2014.
Devils' first they go down 3 games to none, but the first 2 games went to overtime. So right
Yep,
off the
just like the
bat, I
Rangers
mean,
series.
Jonathan Quick standing on his head. And then they go down 3 games to none. They win games 4 and 5. Game 6 in LA, right off the bat, 5-minute major for Ryan Carter.
Yep,
And that's it. The wheels fell off. You give a 5-minute major in a playoff game, it's over.
over
Like you
like the
can't
Sharks.
overcome that. Yeah, the Sharks and that was so. I remember watching that. That was
That
unbelievable.
was awesome, dude. That's another playoff
My guy
memory we'll
Timo
just never
Meyer,
forget. Yeah,
Timo Meyer. But
Logan
let's
Couture.
yeah,
We'll
let's
never
let's
forget.
get into a little bit more of a pressing issue though here, and it's the NHL overtime because apparently 3-on-3 overtime's not exciting enough. And I get it. I get that sometimes it does have some lulls. It's turned into more of a possession game rather than run and gun. I still think 3-on-3 overtime is exciting. Don't touch it. It's fantastic. So few games actually make it to a shootout now. Don't mess with it anymore. But
I
at
agree.
the GM meetings, they are talking about making some changes because they do want to see more offense. They think that there's not enough. What are some of the changes that they proposed? The first one is that you're not allowed to take the puck out of the attacking zone once you've entered the blue line. Once you've entered the attacking zone, you're not allowed to leave. Basically, the only way the puck leaves is if the defending team is able to knock the puck out. The other option is a shot clock. Now, I don't know what the shot clock would be. All I know is I hate it. Tom, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I hate the shot clock. I don't if they're gonna make a choice, it's gotta be the attacking zone one. And the reason why I say that is because there are certain teams, especially ones with great puck moving defensemen, like the Rangers, like the Avalanche, even like the Devils, right? With a guy
Mm-hmm.
like Jack Hughes. There are so many times where like when they're going into their rush into the offensive zone on the 3-on-3 overtime, if that first pass isn't there, they don't feel like they're going to get a
Mm-hmm.
2-on-1 opportunity. They just circle right back out. They make their change or they bring the puck back up again. And it does limit the amount of man rushes, right? I find 3-on-3 overtime when you get those aggressive teams that shoot the puck on that, it goes wide, then the other team comes back. I
It's
think
just
like
back
that's
and
what they're
forth,
looking at.
and
That's when it's
you get
really exciting.
whiplash.
That's when you get, yeah, exactly. That's when you get like the second or third lines out there, right? Where it's like this the guys that just want to score a goal. It's not the top unit moving around the puck. So I don't like the idea. I think they should keep it. I think they should abolish the shootout. I think that's what they should be talking
They
about,
should just
making a
do
10
three on
minute
three
three on
overtime
three
until a team scores.
until a
Because
team
it's not like
scores.
it's going to take 10 minutes. Like,
No,
you're not going to get a Columbus Tampa Bay 5 overtime marathon.
no, and
Like,
you might get the occasional like 15-minute 3-on-3 where a team just can't find the net or both goalies stand on their
mhm.
head. But then again, it
That's
is what it
exciting
is.
if that happens.
Not the shootout, right? Where it's just
I
it's
used to love the
frustrating.
shootout as a kid. And I think it's
Me
just
too.
because I was a little kid. I
Hmm.
thought, like, oh, it's exciting. I cannot stand the shootout. It is so boring compared to 3-on-3 overtime. They
So
need
true.
to. They honestly keep it the way it is. Get like you said, get rid of the shootout.
Yeah. Let's
It's
talk
not
about that, not those
exactly.
signals.
It's not necessary to change overtime. Now, I am just peeking up because it is Wednesday night, so NHL on TNT. The Hurricanes and Flyers, little Metropolitan Division action going on.
Okay.
The fourth place in the Metro, Flyers, currently up 3-0 on
I
Carolina.
love it. Let the Rangers keep building a lead on the Canes, Penguins, and Devils.
That's
Let's keep it going.
The Rangers may be able to run away with this, especially, I mean, Jack Hughes apparently might come back this weekend. We'll see. I think getting Nico Hischier back is really important. I know a lot of criticism on the Devils, including from Mikey D. But when you
I
lose
think
your
it's the
top
I
two
think it's
centers,
and
like
I
what do
also
you
just think it's
expect?
the defense and goaltending is
Well,
a
the
concern.
defense has been atrocious.
So
The
bad.
goaltending, yes, the goaltending is what it is, but the goaltending is what we expected. The
Yeah,
defense has been putrid. They miss Graves and Severson a lot more than they thought they would. I think Luke Hughes has been good. I
I agree.
think Brendan Smith needs to get launched into
I've been there
anywhere.
before as a Ranger. He became so bad as a defenseman for the Rangers after they traded for him from Detroit that
Mm-hmm.
his last year as a Ranger, he was a forward. He was literally an extra forward.
He was the seventh defenseman.
Yeah, and they were using him on the fourth line.
Yeah.
They weren't
It's
even playing him back.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
And like they sent Cal Foot to Utica. Why?
Yeah,
Like
Brendan Smith's so much
Colin
better.
Miller's back. Okay, let him play.
Yeah,
Why does Brendan Smith have to be in the lineup every day?
it's
Bring Shimon
frustrating.
Nemitz up. Something.
Yeah,
Something. But
they need a jolt.
speaking of disappointments, though, we are going to talk about some disappointments. And before the show, you and I pulled up 4 teams as our 4 biggest disappointments. We do have 2 from the West and 2 from the East. Now, out West, it's pretty obvious. The Edmonton Oilers are the NHL's biggest disappointment so far. Now, obviously, the head coaching change. You see Woodcraft's out, Knobloch's in, someone that, you threw out in the offseason as a potential candidate to take the Rangers head coaching
That I
job.
did.
This is someone that you have given high praise to. So definitely interesting, but it's McDavid's junior coach coming back to coach him. So, maybe things turn around. I know their first game under the new regime, things did look better, but Edmonton has certainly been the biggest disappointment this year. What exactly do you see as the problem? And do you think that the coaching change alone is enough to solve this? If not, what else do they need to do to get back on track?
It's a tough question with Edmonton because I think they have all the talent in the world, right? And there hasn't been that much changeover with their roster. I think maybe their depth hasn't been as good as it was last year, which is big to me. I just think that that they needed a change, and that change was the coaching staff. I don't think they were responding to the old regime. And I think losing McDavid, obviously, for that stretch of game, they were completely lost. I think him coming back, I think they're going to go on a little run here. I think they're going to come into by December or January, be right back in the mix for it. But they were just such a disappointment right now because you would think that how good they were last year, and with Draisaitl basically being in the Hart conversation the last couple of years, that even losing McDavid, they would have stayed course. They would have played, they would have been like the Devils, right? They would have been like a game over 500 or whatever. They just completely fell off the rails. They just couldn't do anything, right? They were losing to teams they should have beat. So they're a disappointment to me right now in the moment, but I can see how they turn it around, and it's just buying into what Knobloch's gonna present to the team, buying into that system, and just relying on their superstars to take it to the next level over the next couple of weeks and get back into a playoff spot. I think it's going to happen. That's my prediction, but it has been. It just Draisaitl, the top 6. Nugent Hopkins has been underwhelming. Kane has been underwhelming. It's just been their stars have been no shows, and they did not step up when McDavid went out. So that's what was disappointing to me about them.
Yeah, and look, obviously, for Edmonton, I do think they're a little top heavy. Obviously, anytime you end up with this kind of, just I don't even want to say, whenever you end up paying guys like McDavid and Draisaitl as much as that Edmonton has to pay them, it's just tough. Their top 6 though shouldn't. It's there. McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, I know Sam Gagne, that's a blast from the past. But Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, even the third line and Ryan McLeod, Derek Ryan, and Warren Fogle isn't awful.
No.
Defensively, Bouchard and Ekholm need to be better. Darnell Nurse needs to be better.
He's getting paid a lot too to be bad, pretty much. He's almost what, 9.25, I think, almost 10 actually.
I think so.
Nurse. Yeah.
Yeah,
crazy.
and I mean Stuart Skinner also just has to be better.
Yep.
Like I know they're dealing with a few injuries, but Edmonton, maybe it just comes down to they're not that good because in the playoffs, McDavid and Draisaitl carried, and in the regular season, how many points did McDavid have last year?
150. No.
He was like almost 2 points per game. So maybe they just weren't that good. Maybe McDavid is really just fed up with Edmonton. Maybe he wants out. I don't know. I don't think so. I do think that Edmonton was able to make a move early enough that if this coaching change does spark something with this team and they do get back on track,
they'll be locked in there for
exactly. This team can tightrope into a wild card. Like Winnipeg made the wild card last year out of the West. Like the West is not as loaded as the East, where in the East, if you don't at
Edmonton
least
got out,
like if you don't at least play 500 hockey in your worst moments, you're not making the playoffs in the East right now with how loaded it is. But at least in the West, Edmonton, they'll be okay as long as they right the ship soon, basically now. Yes. The next team that we want to get into, though, it's the Nashville Predators. And
this one hurts me.
Yeah. I don't get it, right? You bring in Ryan O'Reilly, they have Roman Josi still, UC Zaros in goal. Not sure if you've seen the UC Zaros commercial where I think it's like a financial advising thing. He's sitting there in the locker room and the guy's like, "Hey, what are your goals for retirement?" No goals. So
I'm gonna have to look that up on Twitter.
Yeah, he just sits there the whole time.
Devil's Nation thinks that's their future goalie right there. Yeah, Zaros.
I like Zaros. I like.
Hey, the way this is the perfect. I know we keep going back to the Devils. That is the way Nashville season is going. The disappointment. It's the perfect scenario for Nashville. Barry Trotz might be like, let's just sell because obviously this isn't working.
Well, especially after Hellebuck signed the extension in Winnipeg. He's not going anywhere. He's locked up for 7 more years, which, by the way, I found out last night, Winnipeg is one of, if not the most American roster in the NHL.
It's amazing, right?
One of the most like Canadian team.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, been a disappointment for Nashville. I believe just 5 wins on the season.
They've lost some close ones. They
have lost some close games, but 10 points through 15 games for the Nashville Predators was not what we saw. We saw this team as maybe not being a playoff team, but being one that can knock on the door. We thought they were going to be competitive. We thought the fans in Smashville were really going to bring it. And ultimately, this is the Barry Trotz effect on a team.
We love their we love their hire too, and Andrew Burnett. Like we love that too. Like,
but look at the roster, right? Their top line is Ryan O'Reilly, Gustav Nyquist, Phillips Forsberg. Their second line is Cody Glass, Luke Evangelista, and Kiefer Sherwood.
Yeah.
Who are these people? Like,
it's so true.
Even Gustav Nyquist and Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly, at best, Forsberg and O'Reilly are B-list stars.
Yeah.
On their best day, Nyquist isn't a star. He's a solid player. You can get away with him being your 6th best forward.
Yes.
Nashville, this is just this is a Barry Trotz built roster. Defensively as well. Tyson Barrie. Tyson Barrie, come on, man. We did harp on that in the
we did. I think the reason why I thought they would fight for a playoff spot was like a Ryan O'Reilly finally getting back into a situation where he is the top center, right? Thought that maybe rejuvenate him. Philip Forsberg.
I agree. I thought
all of them had just started playing out slow. Like
I thought maybe Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett had some semblance of how to build a roster. I know they have the Luke Shen injury, but
Yeah.
is Luke Shen really making a difference right here? Come on.
And their bottom six has been putrid. I
Their
mean, it
bottom
just really
six is
has.
their bottom six right now. It's Yuso Parson and Colton Sissons, Yakov Trenin, Liam Foodie, Michael McCarron, and Cole Smith.
Yeah,
Is there
not
a
good.
single name outside of Colton Sissons that you've heard before?
They
And
should have
even
never
Colton
traded.
Sissons.
They should have never traded Tanner Janelle last year. That was a bad move. That
No,
was a
I think
bad move,
that
man.
look, but what it's showing is actually a lot like what I saw from Tom Fitzgerald when he took over in New Jersey.
Yeah.
He had to break it down. He had to get a lot of the bad contracts. He had to get a lot of the old guys, let some of these young guys come up and play. And as you saw with the Devils last year, right? Like a guy like Miles Wood, gone. Jesper Boquist, gone. Yegor Sharangovich, gone. The young
Yeah.
guys that grew and played with the team for a few years,
Goodbye.
eventually the ones that stick, the ones that don't. But this is the time they're going to let them play. They're going to go through some growing pains. I guess more
It's
shame on us for
for
expecting
thinking. Yeah, no,
Nashville to
that's
be
what I
good.
was getting at too. Yeah, because I saw with the Rangers too, guys. Like, I mean, a little different because they had playoff
They
runs, but
had
like
such a
Zuccarello
quick
gone.
turnaround time.
They did, but like Zuccarello gone and Stepan gone. When they decided they wanted to turn around Buchnevich, they traded because of contract.
Well, that's
Like the guys
even
they
like
had to
you
just
look
get
at
rid of.
like McDonough going to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You
Girardi
know,
at that time. Like they just kind of really flipped it and
exactly.
brought in, but they brought in older guys that
Well, that's they
maybe
brought
they
in
could have got.
Yandel. They brought in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a few pieces here and there. Like
It's
the
true.
Rangers, it's weird because they've never been fully young, but they've also they know when to get rid of guys for the
They do.
most
They
part.
do.
Like the
The
fact that
Rangers
they're not in
really
on Patrick Kane right now, I think
is
should be
awesome.
very telling.
Yes, I agree. And I also feel like the Rangers, my team, have really put an emphasis over the last 5 to 10 years on a young. They want to build a young defensive core, so they don't have to keep trading for defensemen like they did with McDonough, Girardi, right? Stall,
Well,
like it was a
yeah, and
stalwart for years, and goaltending. They're following the same blueprint. They're just changing it up on offense, where they are really going. They got the young draft picks on offense, and they went young, keeping Hedel and will pluck a veteran, wing here and there. It's like the opposite of what was going on back in the early, 2010s and stuff. So,
oh, yeah,
yeah, it's a way to
yeah.
win, though.
Look,
I think Nashville following the same paths as New Jersey and New York since we saw it up close. I could
yeah.
see that. You make a
No,
good point.
and it's just what it seems like. It feels like Barry Trotz wants to filter it out. He got his coach. Now he wants to get his players in there. And
Yep.
you saw when he was with the Islanders, Barry Trotz is a specific type of player, and there's a reason why he was a Lou Lamoriello coach. Like they
Yes.
worked out very well for a reason over there on Long Island when they were together. But let's shift over to the East and talk about our two disappointments out there. First one I'm going to go into is the Buffalo Sabres. Now, they're a little bit better than the other team we're going to talk about out East, but I mean, we were talking about Buffalo being a playoff team. They are 7-8-1 to start. They are just not doing what we thought they were going to do. They are dealing with a slew of injuries. Tage Thompson, as we were just saying, is out. Alex Tuck has been missing some time. Devin Levi missed some time for a little bit as well. And even when he started the season, he was putrid after. I mean, we were singing his praises. We were ready to crown this guy the next
We
top
were.
goalie in the
He
league.
looked so
And
good at the end of last year. He looked so
yeah,
good.
and he made us look like idiots. But you know, like still though, I think Buffalo has done a better job of being a little bit more competitive, but they're still losing games. It's been a tough go for Buffalo sports right
Yeah, very true. I though I will say I think more of Buffalo's struggles have been they haven't had a consistent lineup on the ice for this season. There's always been a guy out, or to your point, they just haven't been able to put the team they wanted on the ice for even a stretch of 4 or 5 games in a row. Now you lose Tage Thompson. I mean, he's the heart and soul of your team. He's the star. He's like losing a Jack Hughes. He's like losing a
now. Oh,
Cale
exactly.
McCarr last year. It's just so hard to make up. And when you don't have, I feel like when teams struggle like this, right? You need to have someone that can take the brunt of losing that and then find a way to win in a different way. So, for example, right, the Rangers lost Igor for the last 4 games.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jonathan Quick's a capable backup, but the Rangers tightened it up on defense, even losing Adam Fox. They found ways to win in other ways. The teams
Well, I
like
mean, they've won the
Buffalo,
Louis
teams like
Domingue game too.
yeah, that too. Like Buffalo, I feel like they're incapable of doing that because they're just they don't know how to win in a different way. They only know how to win, and they're only competitive when Tage is on the ice, Tuck is on the ice, and they have their full complement of players going there. And I think it's a testament to coaching. They're just not ready to win in a different way. I still think they're too young. They need everything to be perfect. And I think it's a kudos to them for staying kind of competitive. So when they do get healthy, they might be able to go on a little run. But yeah, it's disappointing to me because I just thought they were going to be so much better.
Well, you see the difference in the Devils, right? When they don't have Jack Hughes, right? They don't have Nico Hischier. Well, the Devils still have Timo Meyer, Jesper Bratt, Dawson Mercer, Eric
Tyler
Halla, Tyler Toffoli, Andre Palat. Like, there are guys for the Devils to still lean on, and you see how bad they've been. So
Yeah.
Buffalo loses Tage Thompson. All of a sudden, Casey Middlestad is their top line center. So yeah, Buffalo is dealing with some
Victor
trouble right
Olofsson
now.
needs to play better, more minutes, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. It has been a very, very difficult stretch for Buffalo. But again, it's just another one of those shame on us, right? They just weren't quite
That's too
there
bad.
yet. We also
That's
weren't we weren't ready for Boston to come back though either. They well,
I cannot stand them. I don't
Edmonton has been the
understand it.
biggest disappointment. Boston has to be the biggest surprise. I mean, maybe you can argue the Rangers just with how well they have been playing as a
I would
surprise,
say that
but
I
that's
think you could
not
put
even as
the
much of a surprise as Boston, though. Because the
it's
Rangers,
not. It's,
if you told me the Rangers were in first place to start the season going into Thanksgiving, I would have said, okay, that's not far fetched. But if you
but if I
said
took
Boston was doing exactly what they are doing as last year, no way.
I know I agree with that, but I will also counter your point with if I told you the Rangers would be in first place and they would play almost 2 weeks without Hedel, Fox, and Igor, you would be like, there's absolutely no shot.
Well, Igor and Fox, yes.
Yeah,
Hedel,
Hedel. I don't know. Hedel's a big part of that team. He really is. But we don't have to get into that. I'm just saying that yes, it is fun being a fan. Like a Boston fan must be so fun. They're just one of those organizations that they're just always going to figure it out, right? They're just like in the NFL, right? There's just going to be teams that are always going to figure it out, and Boston's one of them. And it just is what it is. It is frustrating.
well, your boy Alexis Lafreniere, 7 goals. I'm
He's
pretty
breaking
sure he
out.
has more goals than anybody on the Devils right now, except
He's
maybe
breaking.
Toffoli.
He's breaking out. He's breaking out, my guy.
I told you, especially give him a good coach, put him on a line with Panarin, and the kid's going to flourish. But we do have one last team to touch on here, one last disappointment. And I think I did pick this team to go to the playoffs. It's the Ottawa Senators.
I think I agree with you if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, Tarasenko, Kachuk, Matthew Joseph is solid. Tim Stützle is another one who's been continuing to take steps. The bottom 6, I like it. Matthew Highmore, Parker Kelly, Drake Batherson, Dominic Kubalik. Like, these are good players in the bottom 6. Oh, yeah, by the way, defensively, when you have a Jacob Chikrin that they went out and got, you have Travis Hamonic, you have a Jake Sanderson, you have an Artem Zub. Goaltending, yeah, I get it. Korpisalo hasn't been what they expected. Anton Forsberg isn't that good to begin with. But come on, I did not expect the Ottawa Senators to be the team that ended up in the cellar of the Eastern Conference, because they are currently tied with Columbus for the worst record, least amount of points in the East. Why for Ottawa? Why are they so bad? Why can't they figure it out?
That's a loaded question. They're so talented. They can play quick. They can play heavy. They've got really good defensemen. I always beg the question in hockey. Sometimes when you have a talented team that isn't performing, I always go to coaching.
Well, and I was going to say coaching, and how much of it is ownership, right? How much of it is the fan base? Like like ownership. It's going through the transition. Like
a lot easier to go to work on a Tuesday night when Jack Hughes is your center. A lot easier to go to work on a Tuesday night when you're playing with Austin Matthews, right? Like a Max Domi, right? Kind of player. hard to go into work happy in Ottawa on a Wednesday night against the Sharks, right? Like,
Yeah.
and without owner, like I just feel like it does make a difference where you play, who you play for, the ownership, the coaching. I think that's the Ottawa testament because ever since Alfredson and Spezza and all them, they used to be a powerhouse in the NHL. They used to be in the middle 2000s to like the beginning, probably like 2015,
I was
2016.
going to
They
say,
were
because
a
even they
consistent
were a perennial playoff team still,
every
even
year.
after the Alfredsons and the Spetzas.
Yeah. They made some bad moves, and one of them is the Mika move for the Rangers for Brassard. They've just made some trades that they took young players out of their system for some reason, and they haven't been able to make up for it. And now it feels like they have the team and their coaching staff and the ownership questions. It's weird to me. It
Yeah,
is.
look, coaching is obviously a big part of it, but I
That's
mean,
my answer to
we
you.
also
I'm gonna
we
say
also
coaching.
can't. I feel like as much as I want to overlook it, I can't overlook the age of Giroux and Tarasenko. Your top two
Okay.
right wings are north of 30. Like,
Yeah, sure.
they're on the older side. They're past their primes essentially. Even you could say what you want about Patrick Kane and Tarasenko to the Rangers last year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to say it just because I didn't want to be wrong, to be honest with you. I felt like it was something I would totally get burned on.
Yeah.
I wasn't too impressed with bringing in two old guys. Like
It's true.
Patrick
It's true.
Kane, I felt like was washed.
Yeah, he was
Now
hurt.
he
He
had
was hurt. Yeah.
he had some moments, but that wasn't Patrick Kane that we saw.
Tarasenko was great though.
Tarasenko
Tarasenko,
was
I think he's
great
going to
to
end up a Ranger
start.
now. Again, he's going to
He
end up a
might.
Ranger.
He
Yeah.
might, but I mean, look, he started off extremely hot with the Rangers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Come playoff time, I saw exactly the Vladimir Tarasenko I thought we were going to see.
Except in games 1 and 2.
Well, I don't count games 1 and 2 because the
I
series
do.
didn't start until game 3.
For a Devils fan, it didn't start until game 3.
For you, it ended after game 2.
Well, game 3, honestly, it ended because game 3, I think
3 was a great game though too.
Game 3 was awesome, and I always tell Devils fans this, who even with the Rangers' hot start this year, they're still talking shit about beating us in the playoffs. You got to remember, you're one shot away from that series being over, and you won one more game in the playoffs in the Rangers. It's that just calling a spade a spade.
Well, I mean, they won 2 more games.
Yeah, I forgot. 2 more games.
But look, at the same time, I think we're at a point where last year. I don't care that the Devils beat the Rangers in the playoffs. I enjoyed it over the summer. Oh, I enjoyed it.
Of course you have to, and you're gonna have those highlights forever. The Mikey McLeod deke on
playoff
Igor, Game
Palat.
7. Yeah, you're gonna love it. You're overtime winner from Dougie at the Garden, shutting up the crowd. Jack Hughes going by. There's so many memories. Like as a Ranger fan, I remember I would love them too. But like to your point, last year.
And that's exactly it, because now the Devils and Rangers looks like the script has flipped a little bit. But
we'll see on Saturday. Devils
we,
the Rangers, so
we will see, and hopefully Jack will be back. He might be. He might not be.
Hopefully
we'll
Igor's
see.
back.
Hopefully Nico is back. I think Nico is very much just as important as Jack Hughes. I think it's very easy to overlook that Nico is out because he doesn't have the offensive production. But I think that's also I think that's a big reason for the defense, especially again, their center depth has taken such a hit.
Yeah.
It's such an advantage to let Dawson Mercer play the wing. It's such an advantage to have Nico Hischier as your top line center, and Jack Hughes can go out there and just play offense. Like, it is an advantage. But on that note, before we start talking more Devils Rangers, this wasn't really supposed to be a Devils Rangers pod.
Well, they play this week, so listen, it turned into.
Oh, don't worry. Next week. The gloves are coming off.
You know what? I want to say one thing before you wrap.
Oh yeah,
up.
go for it.
Because the Trouba hit on I forgot his name, Morchenko, whatever, stirred up a conversation in Devils and Hurricanes land where that was a dirty hit. And I'm gonna say this: I go on the record a lot saying I don't think Jacob Trouba's a dirty player. We are one semi-dirty hit against the Devil from that argument being like if he knocks out Nico again in his first game back.
I was gonna say if Nico comes back, Trouba's gonna get him in the head and it's gonna be over.
Even a little bit of a shoulder into the head, because Nico's skating with his head down, Devils fans will just be all over, already all over Trouba.
Well, and look, I know all the Devils fans, they're on Trouba. Obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of Trouba. I thought the hit on Meyer in the playoffs should have been a penalty.
Yeah,
left his feet. Charging,
I agree.
whatever. But
Yeah.
the hit on Marchenko was clean hit. It was shoulder on shoulder, didn't leave his feet. He had the puck. Get over it.
Yep.
But
Exactly. Hockey's hockey.
we definitely have a little bit more in depth on that conversation in terms of, is Jacob Trouba a dirty player? Maybe some other guys if they're dirty players, but that will do it for us here on the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. Appreciate you guys listening. Tune in again next week and make sure you catch our power rankings coming out every Monday. So make sure you check us out at outsidersports.net as well. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned and have another great week of hockey.